Welcome to Mystara, as we return to the land of good cooking, plentiful ale, and the last place you want to start a bar brawl, the 5 Shires. We're looking at the 5 different sheriffs of the Shires and a deeper dive into the government proper. The Shires are unique as they lack a single executive branch. They're split into 5 regions, hence the name. And none of them have any authority over the other. How does a Federation-style government work in a fantasy setting? I'm Mr. Welch, and please don't shoot the deputy. The Shire government began in 609 BC, but its seeds were sown over 100 years prior. The Hen had gone through multiple governments before, only 2 of which were theirs. The Orcs conquered the nation of Hendon, and then the Orcs were replaced by the Dwarves. Then the Hen got their independence and restarted with the nation of Shire, which didn't last a century before the Hen started a civil war called the Clan Strife in 811 BC, resulting in them being conquered by Orcs again. This creates the Time of Torment, where the Orcs terrorized the Halflings for decades until 744 BC with the Third Rising, where the Hen slay the Orc king but are immediately invaded by various groups looking to take the 5 Shires' riches. The Hen eliminated the Orcish king in 744 BC, along with the Dwarven and human bandits and invaders, finally securing their own nation. Removing all foreign hostiles takes another 70 years, but the Hen are finally free of outside interference. The elders of the Shire were summoned to an old Orc city that would later be built in the city of Shireton to decide on a new government. The 2 options considered were to create a government where the clan leaders would determine the course of action for the Shires, and a government by the elders regardless of which clan. The elders opposed the former option because that was the kind of government that brought about the clan strife decades previous. The idea of the rules by the elders was plagued by accusations of favoritism, and old rivalries came back to life, causing the conference to devolve into one large shouting match. The solution came in the form of a young halfling war leader named Gunzuth. The defense of the Shires had been left to the younger Hen. They were better suited to wage war, and now that the wars were over, the Hen commanders were taking their place among the leadership. Gunzuth was one such halfling. He shouted down a raucous debate between the leaders when it became apparent that arguing was the only thing getting done. He proposed a new form of government where the sheriff would serve as an executive for the Shires, both judge and leader. The new position wouldn't have any authority inside the clans, but would handle all disputes between them. He was part manager, referee, and police chief. He could be removed any time with a majority vote between the clan leaders, but otherwise would serve for life. This would let the clan chiefs keep their local power, but didn't step on the toes of the elders. But it was far more reactive to emergencies than the rule by committee the Hen were proposing. It was agreed that Gunzuth would serve as the first sheriff. The elders supported him in numbers that surprised everyone. He wasn't particularly charismatic. He was a decent commander, but not known for his military genius. But he allowed them to break the impasse, keeping the Shires from establishing a working government. Besides, if his proposal failed, he could be used as a scapegoat. But his plan didn't fail. He proved to be a competent leader. The clans could handle local problems efficiently, and internal strife was dealt with by Gunzuth adjudicating the issue. The sheriff governed the Hen military, though the clan chiefs could use their forces to handle immediate threats. In case of a foreign threat, or if the danger was too great for a single force, Gunzuth would redirect additional troops. He ruled wisely for over 3 decades, and on his deathbed he made his last ruling. He broke up the Shires into 5 different regions, creating the modern nation. Gervas Dustyboots is the current sheriff of Shire and the leader of the Shire's military forces. He spends little of his time in the Shire, as he's a staunch believer in learning the weaknesses of the entire nation, not just his region. When his presence is not required, he travels the country looking for roads that need maintenance, fortifications that require renovation, and any potential exploits in the other Shires. He presents his findings to the other sheriffs, not just with a list of complaints, but also fixes for the problems. He isn't a complainer, he is a Hen of action. He understands the limitations of his nation, so his plans are never far-fetched. Instead of being irritating, the other sheriffs take his advice without question. It doesn't hurt that he has a reputation for brutal honesty and is above reproach regarding integrity. Multham Greybeard is in charge of Highshire, and appropriately, he's in charge of all the mines in the Shires. His name isn't a misnomer, he actually sports a beard, which is quite rare for a Hen. He overlaps the duties with Dustyboots, as any troops assigned to guard mines or trails leading to mines fall under his command. He is a stern and no-nonsense leader. If there is a Hen with a more hatred of humanoids, I couldn't name them. He knows the values of the precious metals and gems his miners pull out of the ground. And while he doesn't feel the same greed common in dwarves, he does understand it. Because he knows the economics of the Shire's mineral wealth, he's impossible to cheat at the bargaining table. Despite being middle-aged for a Hen, his hair is jet black, so his name may be a misnomer. Merog Littlelaughs rules Eastshire and serves as the Chief Justice for the courts in the Shire. She is stone-faced on the bench, known for harsh sentences, and is quick to admonish lawbreakers. She dislikes tall folk who break the laws of the Shire, and doesn't hold back on giving them the maximum amount allowed. In her private life, she's rather jovial, a reversal of her persona on the bench. She doesn't share this lighter side of her personality with anyone but her closest friends, and they are few. During her Yalaran, she became quite adept with the bow and has come to respect the warriors that guard their homeland. If the defendant before her is charged with assaulting a foreigner, she has a habit of going soft on the sentencing, unless they were obviously in the wrong. Daloon Darkeyes is the youngest of the sheriffs, found in Shire. She is popular with her people and has been tasked with maintaining the roads and forests. She's known as one of the most eligible bachelorettes, something she takes pride in. She's also a workaholic who can't ride by a pothole without stopping and trying to repair it herself. If the repair job is too much for one hen, she will guilt-trip people watching her into helping. All hen must take care of the shires, something that is hammered into their heads as soon as they can learn. Turning a crowd of onlookers into an impromptu work crew doesn't take much prodding. It doesn't hurt that she has a lovely singing voice and helps pass the time while they plant trees or repave roads. Sidil Sea Eyes leads South Shire, and as her name suggests, supervises all ships arriving or departing. She doesn't do much sailing now that she's a sheriff, but she can spot a torn rigging or a deck needing repair from across the harbor. She ensures that private vessels are combat-worthy and foreign vessels are up to code. She spent her youth as a pirate and knows every trick to pass inspection or how to smuggle cargo. She won't hesitate to take command of the nearest warship and lead the counterattack if there's a naval raid on a port. This is the only time she will leave port. She was named the sheriff for a reason, and she's steadfast in performing her duties. She hopes that when Dusty Boots steps down, she will be appointed the war leader of the Shires. Then she can take a group of strikers into the Black Eagle Barony and finally bring down von Hendricks. Cooler heads have prevailed so far, keeping her from starting an international incident, even if the action is warranted. The government of the Shires is a federation in setup. The more local the problem, the more local the leader to solve it. If a thief is caught inside of a town, the mayor handles it. If the crime is severe, the clan chief assumes the role of judge. Sheriffs only get involved in certain situations and are supposed to oversee the running of the national government and not the day-to-day operations of smaller cities and towns. The sheriffs deal with any charges against a clanless hen or a foreigner, especially if they're one of the tall folk. If there's a dispute between shires, all the sheriffs will meet to discuss the problem. If a crime occurs in the wilderness outside of an established city or settlement, then the trial falls to the sheriff of the relevant shire. This can mean the trials are put on hold until the sheriff returns or handles all previous business that they're working on. Even then, it's rarely more than a week before a trial is held. Hen don't like putting off important business. Sheriffs are appointed for life, but most only serve a few years before retiring. It's not meant to be a lifelong job, and most sheriffs want to return to their everyday lives after a while. The average term for a sheriff is 6 to 8 years, with the longest serving for 20 before retiring. To become a sheriff, you must be first an 8th level halfling, and then candidates are secretly appointed by supporters to the sheriff's council. It's bad form to nominate yourself, but you can always have a friend do it for you. Once all nominations are made, the council investigates each one to determine who's best for the job. These investigations and the following discussions are done in secret, but once the sheriffs agree, they will approach the nominee and see if they want to be sheriff. If they decline, there's no shame. It's a difficult job that requires the candidate to leave their current work. If they accept, it's time for celebration, especially in the Shire, which has a new sheriff. To leave office, all a sheriff has to do is announce his or her resignations to at least 2 other sheriffs. Then the position is immediately vacated. They return all trappings of office and resume their previous life. Some sheriffs take on the mantle of masters, the specialist clerics for the high heroes. Others often return to adventuring as a knight hero, or even become their clan chief if the position is available. To have served as a sheriff is a high honor, and one that the former sheriff will always have. If they perform poorly, the hen patron immortals, the high heroes, will take notice. And if the sheriffs are detrimental to the shires, the immortal will send a message to the masters to tell the sheriff they need to retire. This is a mark of shame, and in the rare instances where this has happened, the former sheriff leaves the shire, never to return. The duties of the sheriff, outside their specially appointed tasks, are to keep the peace and pass judgment in all manners of disputes. If a case is complex, the sheriffs will even meet to decide the proper course of action. They rarely disagree when looking at all the evidence, but if a vote is needed, a simple majority determines the decision. Sheriffs can travel to any shire without restriction, especially if a problem falls under their specific duty. If there's any overlap in duties, the local sheriff takes precedence in the matter. If a road needs work that leads to a mine in Highshire, Greybeard handles it instead of Darkeyes because it falls partially under his jurisdiction of mines. If the mine road were in Shire, the situation would be reversed and Darkeyes would take care of it. Sheriffs are provided a yearly allowance and can commandeer items necessary for the performance of their duty. The most common application of this ability is to claim disputed property or items judged as payment for a wrong. If a sheriff needs to appropriate something else, tradition requires them to ask the clan chief to handle the request so the sheriff wouldn't be abusing their authority. That's the sheriffs of the 5 shires. It was a quick and fun topic, useful in games where party members might find themselves in a bit of trouble in Shire Town, or possibly getting guilted into helping fix a road at a random encounter. I'm moving the next topic up as it's relevant to a recent release with the Shadow Elf Pharaoh, the poor bastard trapped in Sigil and condemned to a fate worse than death. Until then, this wraps up the second page of topics for Welcome to Mystara in my big black book. 75 more topics finished, and I've got another 75 ready to go.